He sat by the fire, fingers black with dried blood. His sword lay beside him, useless now. He had killed today, maybe 10, maybe more. But it wasn't the men he killed that haunted him. It was the women he didn't save. The young girls screaming as their homes burned, taken as slaves of the worst kind. The mothers thrown to the ground, brutalized as the enemy took what was never theirs. The silence afterward, when nothing was left but the crackling of the fire and the stench of the smoke and death. He had fought for his king. He had fought for his brothers. He had fought because he was told it was honourable, because it was his duty, because that was what men did. But tonight, he felt nothing but the weight in his chest, because deep inside, where he would never let himself go, he knew he had already lost. They don't talk about what war did to men, the trauma imprinted deep in their DNA. They talk about the glory, the strategy, the victories, the heroes, but they don't talk about the ones who came home in silence, the ones who washed the blood from their hands until their skin cracked, but it still felt dirty. The ones who could no longer sleep without hearing the screams. The ones who found nothing waiting for them but ghosts. History tells us about the raped, the murdered, the forgotten women. But who tells the story of the men who saw it happen? Who tells the story of the warriors who failed? Because not all of them were monsters. So many of them were just boys who didn't have a choice or stand a chance, ensuring their minds were fractured from war, a collective MK Ultra style trauma programming, making us easier to control. What does a man do when he is trained and expected to protect but he fails? The knights who swore oaths to their queens and watched them burned at the stake. The soldiers who were ordered to pillage and knew they would be killed if they refused. The husbands who left for war only to return and find their homes destroyed, their women taken. They were forced to become the thing they swore to fight. And so, something inside them died. And those who could not bear it walked away forever. The war was over, they said, but not for him. Not in the nights where he woke up gasping, covered in sweat, reaching for a sword that wasn't there. Not when he tried to hold her and she felt like a ghost in his arms. Not when he looked at his son and wondered if he'd orphaned another boy just like him. Our men, they came home, but they never really came back. Generations. They were supposed to be warriors, strong, unshaken, but the truth is, many of them never stopped bleeding. Some men fought in wars, some men fought in silence, and some men fought against the world itself. But in the end, they all became the same. Because a man who has seen too much, who has lost too much, who has killed or been forced to kill, is no longer part of this world. So they withdrew. They were told killing was a sin. So what hope did they have of redemption? They became the drifters, the exiles, the forgotten ones. They walked until the edges of the world swallowed them whole. They sat in taverns drinking away their ghosts. They stopped believing in honour, in brotherhood, in love. And some of them ended up in the silent club. The place where men who have seen the dark go when they can't talk about it. The ones who whisper about what they saw, what they lost, what was taken. The ones who don't cry because if they did, they'd never stop. And when they stop feeling altogether, something else, much more sinister, moves in. When a man buries his pain too deep, something else begins to wear his skin. It doesn't happen all at once. It starts small. The first time he watches someone suffer and feels nothing. The first time he walks away instead of standing up because it's easier that way. The first time he hears screaming and just closes the door. And the world calls him cold, but the truth is he burned so hot that he was turned to ash. And what was left wasn't him anymore. Some of them become angry men, fighters, killers, men who throw their pain into their fists and their swords. Some of them become quiet men, the ones who don't speak, don't feel, don't care anymore. And some of them become something much worse, much more sinister. Because when a man breaks but does not heal, he becomes something else entirely. He didn't feel the punch when it landed, didn't feel the knife when it grazed his ribs. Pain didn't touch him anymore. He had died a long time ago, and whatever walked in his place now was something else, something hollow, something would not stop until everything hurt as much as he did. There are men who are too far gone. There are men who let the shadow take them over completely. There are men who chose destruction because it was easier than remembering. But there are also men who can still break free, desperately clinging to their sparks buried under generations and generations of trauma. Because not all of them wanted to become this. Some of them just didn't know how to stop it. She found him by the river, washing his hands over and over. The blood was gone, but he still scrubbed. She didn't speak. She didn't tell him to stop. Just knelt beside him, took his hand in hers, and kissed his knuckles like he wasn't a monster, like he was still a man. There is a way home, but first he has to believe he is still worthy of it. The war never ended. Not really. Some men are ready to stop fighting. Some men are ready to remember who they were before the world broke them, in desperate need of nurture and a safe place to rest. Some men truly are born warriors and are fighting shadows on the wall, not knowing the war is internal now. They are in need of an awakened feminine, capable of soothing his soul and handling his rages. And we, the awakened feminines, we know, we see you, we hear you, and we are rising. This is just the beginning. There are many stories of these men to tell. Men who were set up, who were hijacked, who were given no way out. The Silent Club isn't just soldiers, it's magicians, the tricksters, the wanderers, men who played with fire and lost. And some of them, they didn't just lose, they became something else entirely. But still, we rise. I love that feeling when we rise.